Hello and welcome back to Neek, the Pull List Podcast, the show where Josh and I, say hi Josh,
Hi.
talk about the comic books that we've been reading. We've been busy because we have a lot of books that we have been reading. My pull list was about as thick as my wallet, if not thicker. Actually, it was thicker and my wallet was sad.
That's what you say. Ray had a legendary pull this week.
It was pretty bad, but in the best way possible. Welcome back to the show. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm back. New locations, new microphone.
Yes, new location, new microphone. If Josh's sultry tones are even more sultry than usual, it's because that new microphone is doing work.
Oh, it's beautiful. I like it a lot.
Oh, yes. But like I was saying before, this was a really big week for comic books. There were a lot.
It's been a big couple of weeks since we did the show last.
Yes, that's true. We only do the show every 2 weeks, and that usually is either really good for us or really bad for us. And that's because either there's a ton of stuff that comes out in the 2 weeks prior, or there's almost nothing that comes out, and that's happened before.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of books, so pretty much I'm just going to go through the rundown of what I picked up. And then Josh will go through the rundown of what he picked up. We'll talk about a few of the notable ones we really liked. We have an indie book or two that we'll talk about. And then we'll kind of get into some discussion topics, mostly about like Marvel now, kind of where things are going with Rebirth. And then we'll wrap it up. All right?
Yeah.
So start with what I got. Let's see. So Action Comics, number 958.
Yep.
Aquaman, number 1. Batman Detective Comics, number 935. Flash, the official number 1. I'm going to have to specify that later on what that means. Let's see. I'm going to try to stay in DC before I go over to Marvel, unless that's it. That might be. No, Wonder Woman, number 1.
Sorry, there was definitely some Wonder Woman.
And then that's all I got DC-wise. This is actually a lot more Marvel than I anticipated now that I'm looking at it. What happened? Okay. Anyway, so the Marvel side, Black Widow, The Ultimates, number 8.
Yep.
Totally Awesome Hulk, number 7. Vote Loki, number 1.
I can't believe you. I don't even know what to say to you right now.
Bought it.
I don't know what to say to you. I can't bring myself to spend money on that.
The Amazing Spider-Man, number 14. And International Iron Man, number 4. Miss Marvel, number 8.
Yep.
Civil War, Choosing Sides, number 1. Really interesting book. Interesting book. Let's see. And then X-Men Civil War 2, number 1.
Yep.
Yes. And then for my 2 indie books, I have, well, I can't even call that indie, but I have The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, number 4, and Empress, number 1. So
Both
how
good
about
picks.
you, Josh?
So this was a really big week for me. I picked up last week's pulls with this one, so I have a really big time. I have Batman and Superman, the official number 1s. Wonder Woman, the official number 1. Action Comics, 958. And then last week, I did the Dark Knight Returns, The Last Crusade special from Frank Miller and the team behind Dark Knight 3. It's a really big issue. It was $7. Not really worth it, but the art is beautiful. Nice little spine that it came with. So it'll go on my shelf. And then on the Marvel side, I did, of course, Civil War 2, Ultimates 8, Miss Marvel number 8, X-Men Civil War number 2, Star Wars number 20, and Han Solo number 1.
Han Solo. Yeah.
Han Solo. And then my one indie book of the week is from Boom Studios, Kurt Sutter's Lucas Stand. Also, we got Justice League.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just I didn't. Well, I'll give a few comments about that, and then we'll move on when the time comes. So I guess this does less DC. Let's start with DC.
Yeah, let's do DC first.
My notables from DC's this week were definitely Flash, Aquaman, and Action Comics number 958. So Flash number 1, Aquaman number 1, Action Comics number 958. And I'll put disclaimers. I would add Batman Detective Comics number 935, but I realized that I had accidentally skipped number 934. But from what I did read of 935, really good book. If you read, my personal opinion is if you're reading a Batman book, currently, it should be Detective Comics. Good book, real good book. But Josh, you have not gotten Flash or Aquaman.
No, my shop has been sold out of both of those for a couple of weeks now. I've not been able to get, and I've resisted getting. We always say on the show that we really, really, really want you guys to go out and support your local shops. That's precisely why I have not gone to Comixology yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling my hand is going to kind of be forced on a few of these.
Right, because they've been printed in such limited shipments. It's weird.
Yeah, Aquaman came in, sold out day one before I got there. And then the reprint happened. And the day the reprint came in, it was gone within 2 to 3 hours. I couldn't get to the shop. And they got an old one for me. So they just got another shipment in. And thank God one of the one-shots, mind you, is finally set aside for me.
So you know what that means, Josh. You're going to have to start a very, very small pull list. So that way that you're guaranteed these books every single week.
It was small until DC Rebirth, when we decided we were going to start reading all of them.
Yeah, you know, I made this was a choice that we made.
This was a choice. Them going down to $2.99 for each issue really helped.
It does help. It's just that when there's 16 of them, it's like buying them like they were before.
And some of them twice a month.
That's true. Not mad about that though. I get more books to read. It's good.
Right. I think my only notable this week for DC is Action Comics.
Okay.
Disclaimer: Wonder Woman probably would be on there. I have actually not gotten to Wonder Woman yet.
Neither have I. That's why
that is one of 3 titles I have not finished yet. So that will probably end up on there. But for the sake of discussion tonight, Action Comics is the
let's start with Action Comics, and then I'll kind of give a brief overview of Flash 1 and Aquaman.
We have a lot to talk about with Action Comics.
Yes. So Action Comics. I love this book. This is a great Superman book. It's so good. But it's so weird. It's currently so weird. So just kind of like let everybody know, hey, this is a spoiler if you haven't finished, any of the intro to Rebirth stuff. But that spoiler's done now. New 52 Superman's dead. We've said this a few times. He's dead, and they keep telling us that he's dead. They want you to know that New 52 Superman is dead. And that we now have our original Superman back in the universe. Well, Lex Luthor had quote unquote become Superman, and
Super Lex.
He was Super Lex. He was donning the S in place of the fit Superman that had died. But then the Superman who had been in hiding, our regular Superman, decided that it was time to reveal himself when he saw that Lex was parading around an S. He was not about to have that. So he flies down there and, he confronts Lex, and then all of a sudden, Doomsday attacks. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? This is too soon. This is way too soon. Like
the feels were back.
It's like, but this is the thing that killed him. This is how he died. How rude. Why would you do this to him right now?
Yeah, the book is really shocking.
It's really shocking.
Well, I don't know if shocking is the right word to use. It's shocking for me as someone who's not a normal Superman reader, and it's interesting that this is the book I gravitated to.
It's true.
This is the one that I wanted, and that I said it shocked me. 957 shocked me. This continued the trend of shocking. I was just as confused as some of the citizens of Metropolis.
Exactly, and it's played up so well. And I guess the shocking part is at the end of 957. This is a spoiler for 957. Clark Kent shows up at the end, and we're all like, "What the fuck?" And everybody else is like, "What the fuck? Why is there Clark Kent with Superman? It's flying around up there." Because in this universe, it was already confirmed that Superman was indeed Clark Kent and Superman were the same person. That was confirmed in this universe prior to the original Superman showing up. And so that's why everybody's a little freaked out by this. So that's not possible. Lex Luthor is having a double take the entire time as well. There's at one point where he's like, "Hey, fly up here and help us out." And he's like, "What do you mean fly?" He's like, Lex is like, "You're really dedicated to this, even though we already know."
It's pretty great. I laughed a lot reading this, even though it's actually a pretty serious issue.
It's a really serious, but there's some funny moments, which is good for Superman.
The back and forth between the original Superman and Lex Luthor is going to be great.
Yes, it's going to be so good going forward because the original Superman knows Lex like we know him. He is a criminal and a thug, and only wants he just wants power to squish people and make more money. But this Lex Luthor that we know was a member of the Justice League and all this other crazy stuff. So he has no idea. But I still think he's right to be skeptical of Lex Luthor because it's
Absolutely.
Lex Luthor. But anyway, Doomsday is here and he's trashing the town. And I get a little worried because as they're fighting, Superman is like, this is weird. He's stronger and he's faster than what he fought before, but he recognized immediately fighting him that it's the same Doomsday, quote unquote, that killed him. But he's like, he's smarter, first off, which is terrifying. A smart Doomsday is not a good thing for anybody, but he's smarter, he's faster, and he's stronger. And Clark at this point is like, oh my God, I really don't know if I could beat him again. He did the first time at the cost of his life, but now he just doesn't know if he can beat him. And,
right.
Lex is trying his best to like work with him and fight him, and they're trying to get people out of the city. But people in the city are like stopping and watching the fight. And I'm like, people are really stupid. And I'm like, well, this is true. People are idiots. And that translates into comic books too.
Yeah, it's very true to form.
Yes. I think one of the most, to me, one of the more serious parts of this book is that Lois and his son are at home watching this on television because the news is there and they're, pretty much broadcasting the entire thing. And Lois, she screams audibly because she's like, she knows what Doomsday did to Clark before. She knows that this is the thing that killed him. And her son is like, hey, why'd you scream? What's wrong? And she's like, she's trying not to, let her son know this is the monster that killed your father before. It's a real touching moment. And, it gets to a point where she has to turn off the TV. And he's like, why are you turning off the TV? I'm watching my dad. And she's like, she's like, I can't watch this. She pretty much turns it off because she can't watch it. But being the son of Superman, he's like, well, I gotta go do something. I gotta go help my dad. She's like, you can't even fly. What are you doing? And he's like, well, Ma, if I'm gonna fly anytime, it's gonna be now.
Ray just told it better than the comic with the voices and all. I gotta fly, Mom. I gotta help my dad.
Don't stop me now. I gotta save my dad. And so yeah, there's the last panel of the family on the farm is him kind of like shakily floating off the ground, and I'm like, oh my God, he's flying. And at the same time,
it's happening. Yes. Insert Ron Paul podcast.
Great. Oh God. And at the same time, Lex Luthor is making a joke about Clark Kent flying up to help them. And he's like, what do you mean fly? I can't fly. And Luthor's like, you're an idiot.
I think the best moment of the whole book, though, was Jimmy Olsen standing there. Super Lex, Superman, and Clark Kent all in the same picture.
He's like, this is going to be the best picture of all time. I'm like,
both Lex and Superman, what are you doing?
I'm like, the city is literally crumbling around you as Doomsday and Lex and Superman are fighting this monster. And it's weird that I can't just say Clark because Clark Kent is like there. It's weird. So I have to say Superman, Lex, and Clark. It's weird. But
it's such a weird book. This is the Superman book to be reading right now. Mm-hmm. In my opinion.
In mine as well. This is the Superman. I love the #1 Superman Rebirth. I love that book too because it focuses more on the family dynamic. But this will focus more on Superman and like the dynamic of the Superman and everything else happening.
I mean, it's really good. I think Action Comics is really going to start to become this book that's about the relationship between Superman and Lex Luthor. And our Superman, kind of coming to terms with the fact that Lex is an anti-hero. Because I'm not going to call him a full-blown hero. He still does very selfish things for very selfish reasons, as we saw in the Dark Side War.
He died in the S for very selfish reasons.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially DC Dr. Doom. That's probably the best way I can describe him. But that's the thing about Lex Luthor. He always finds a way to surprise you. And that's why he's up there with Dr. Doom and Magneto as some of the greatest villains we've ever seen on, in the pages, because they find ways to continually reinvent these characters, give them heroic sides at times, I like this, Lex. That's why I gravitated to the book. It's not strictly about Superman. It's going to be about both of them, and I really like that. It gives me more of a reason to want to pick this up twice a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. Okay, and I failed to mention, so there has been this hooded man in a green robe that have been
Dr.
kind of.
Fate.
Oh my god, is that really who that is?
I think it's Dr. Fate.
I think it is because So the funny thing is
or Ozymandias.
When I started reading Superman again in like late 2014, early 2015,
he's in there.
He showed up. He was in there.
Yeah.
He was there, and I was like, "What the? Who is this? Who is this dude?" He's literally kind of like playing on the harp of fate for Superman, is what it seems like. And so I'm really curious as to when they're gonna reveal his identity. I don't know if they have. If they did and I missed it, let us know. I would love to know.
I'm 99% certain they haven't. And this guy was also in the Rebirth special. He did show up in there very briefly.
Yeah, very briefly.
So that makes me think that he's connected to the larger Rebirth plot personally. That he may have something to do with the appearance of Dr. Manhattan.
He might. So, yeah.
I'm very curious to know. That's my two theories are Dr. Fate or Ozymandias. But I don't think it would be Ozzy because he's too proud. He would be proclaiming his name from the heavens,
right,
and revealing himself right away because he's a douchebag like that. As much as I think that Adrian is one of the greatest characters that we've seen in comics ever, it's probably Dr. Fate, and I'm really excited to see how this ties in. There's no way you put him in the Rebirth special, tie him to the death of Superman, essentially, and then have him in Action Comics and not reference him anywhere else. He's going to be big going forward. So I'm excited to see the ramifications this book has. It seems like it has some of the bigger ones to the universe as a whole. I want to see Bruce and Diana's reactions to what's happening.
Me too.
I would pay good money to see that right now. And I think that's going to be dealt with in the Trinity book that's coming in September. It's Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, the original Superman. So I really, really want to see how this is all handled.
Oh yes, yes.
But
anyway, that's enough for Action Comics. Great book. Please, it's just if you enjoy Superman even a little bit, or at least interested, you should definitely be picking it up.
It's a like I keep saying, it's a different type of Superman. It's not your typical Superman book. Pick it up. It's completely different. I do not read Superman regularly, and I will be reading this for the foreseeable future. Dan Jurgens writes this.
Yep, and it's so good.
If you don't know Dan Jurgens, Death of Superman.
Yes, I mean, and that's why this makes so much sense.
Which made this even cooler.
That's why it works so well. That's why I feel like I'm just coming back. I'm like picking up a book from then. That's what it feels like to me, and I really, really enjoy that. It's good.
Right.
So anyway, I guess I'll start with Flash.
Flash and Aquaman.
So Flash and Aquaman, great. I love these two books, by the way. Although Flash is more of it's the typical Barry Allen problems, focusing on everything and stressing out because he can't do everything, but he always wants to be the hero and do everything. But we essentially get a new Flash origin story, except it's not Flash. It's Godspeed.
Which, if you remember, we have talked about.
We've talked about Godspeed before. Our gold and white speedster that we're about to get. He is revealed. His identity, his mortal identity is revealed in this book. And you see it coming a mile away. A mile, maybe 2 miles away. You see it. You know who he is when you're reading this book. I mean, I called it and I guess the first 2 panels that he showed up was like, that's Godspeed. It's him. So you'll know. Like I said, Josh has not read it, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail. But it's a good book. It's fun. I said that this is one that will get better as it goes on. It's not like super great right now, but it will be great going forward.
So with Flash, just one more question real fast. We know it takes place after the Rebirth special.
Yes, it takes place after that.
Do we see any of the fallout of the revelation that Wally West is still alive?
Yes, he makes a big deal out of that. He says that,
good.
Yes, Wally's alive and he wants to reconvene with the Titans. It's just, he brings it up again that Batman and I are kind of working on our own like cases of what's happening individually, and then he just completely ignores it and goes and does other Flash stuff, which I'm sure this is what's going to happen. Yeah. He said that he's glad that Wally's back, but he trusts him enough that he'll do his own thing and he'll come back to him when the time is right. With the Titans, he brought that up, so that's kind of where we are on that. We see the current New 52 Wally. He's in this issue, but just as a kid. So I'm not. So this is what. So, but the thing is, I don't know if he is, because he
will be. He's going to be part of Teen Titans this fall.
I guess so, because it was really weird because Barry made it seem like he didn't know that Wally didn't know that he was the Flash. I was like, this is weird, but okay.
I'm sure it's something that's going to play out a little bit. That may just be due to writers.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because there's a different writer on Flash and on Titans. And Titans is very much a Wally West book. I think Jurgens is writing that as well. No, Abnett. Dan Abnett.
Dan Abnett, yep.
Dan Abnett, who is the author of our next book.
Aquaman.
Segway.
Dan Abnett, I appreciate you for the way that you're writing Aquaman. Just get rid of that damn orange and green costume, please. It is hideous. It is so ugly. It is ugly in this book. It's so ugly. It's like they killed a bunch of orange crabs and they stapled them together. So ugly. I'm like, please, get rid of that costume. It's dumb. But this book focuses on Aquaman getting all his ducks in a row. He wants the land and Atlantis to have really good like political relations. He wants there to no longer be any tension between the people that walk on land and between the people that walk underneath the water. He doesn't want that anymore. But there is somebody who very much wants him to be revealed and not liked, and that's our good friend Black Manta. He is badass in this book. I'm like, oh man, things are going like he's just got Aquaman like playing right into his hand. It's kind of sad to watch it play out, but it's working. Aquaman and Atlantis have built this like humongous facility that sits in the water and comes up on land, and they invite all these important like connections from all over the world to come in like meet at this place, and so that they can start like political relations. Except Black Manta has a plan of his own, and it all goes awry. And I'll kind of leave it there. It's good. I'm like, well, this is gonna be a fun one going forward. Really, I just want to know what happens with Black Manta. That's what I want to know. I really just want to know that. But we'll see what happens. The next issue is called Death of a Dream, so seems to be getting pretty serious already.
Yeah, Aquaman's definitely one that I want to pick up, especially with how much they seem to be pushing him for the DCCU. It's actually really
damn costume.
It is really shocking how much they're pushing him in the film universe right now.
He will be the most approachable, if that makes sense.
I think he's going to be the biggest surprise. Yeah. And this comic seems to be the biggest surprise. I mean, Dan Abnett does great work. It's really hard to say that fast. Dan Abnett, really great writer. We praised him last week for Gods of War for Hercules.
Thank you for that.
And now with him doing this and Titans is, all of us have kind of said we think it's going to be one of the flagship books of Rebirth. So, with Wally and, him reuniting with the Titans and such, presumably investigating what happened when he was lost in space, essentially, space-time. I'm really curious to see how much emphasis they give Aquaman now, too, with Aquaman becoming a Justice League member. Again, being back in the Justice League, because he kind of left for a while there, and now he's back.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, because I feel like the public opinion might sway that, but they'll need him. So
they'll need him, and give it about a year and a half, people. He's going to be big.
He will. I hope so.
New 52 did a lot for saving Aquaman's reputation.
This is refining it.
We used to... Growing up, Aquaman was always the joke. Aquaman was a joke until the New 52. It's because Throne of Atlantis changed everything.
Yep.
If you haven't read that arc from Aquaman and Justice League, or even seen the animated film, either one will do. fantastic storytelling. So
Good stuff.
does that do it for DC?
That's it for DC. So I mean, like I said, we weren't going to cover every single book that came out. I mean, it's just we know for the sake of time that as much as you would love to listen to us talk about every single one, we don't want to do that to you. So in Marvel news, so Josh, what are your notables for Marvel?
I got 3 notables of the ones I finished because, of course, disclaimer: I've not finished Miss Marvel #8. Otherwise, she'd probably be on my list.
Right.
I have Han Solo #1.
Okay.
I have Star Wars #20, which just gloss over that one, and then the biggest surprise of the week, I think, for me, X-Men: Civil War 2.
Okay.
Which previews completely lied to us on this one.
Completely lied to us. It's like they told a completely different story than what we're getting. So yeah, which one do you want to start with?
I'll start with Han Solo. Just going to talk real briefly about Han Solo and Star Wars. Han Solo is the latest of these limited series they've been doing. For the characters, they did Lando, Chewbacca, Darth Vader, of course, has had an ongoing one. Kanan had an ongoing one for a while. Princess Leia had some short ones. And yeah, we got Anakin and Obi-Wan. This has been really cool, though. It's only issue #1. The art is absolutely beautiful. Marjorie Liu is writing this. And it takes place after episode 4, before episode 5, so we're filling even more stories in there. And it tells a story. Han is kind of towing the line if he wants to be with the rebels or not. He keeps wanting to go back to smuggling. He wants out. He doesn't want any part of this. Yeah, sure, he saved Luke, but whatever. And gets caught up in this. There's a speed race that he gets caught up in, like between starships. And at the end, they all start getting attacked. They all start getting blown up, and he kind of reluctantly decides, I have to help.
Okay.
Classic Han Solo. I was really skeptical when they announced this, considering they have the spin-off movie coming out in a couple of years. Like, God, do we really need more Han Solo stories? We're getting some books on him. This was really tastefully done. It is a Han Solo story through and through. He's getting into trouble with all sorts of exquisite aliens. If you're watching this on video, the art is absolutely gorgeous on this.
That is a really pretty book.
It's one of the prettiest books I've read recently. It's up there with Moon Knight from our friend Greg Smallwood.
Oh, yes.
I like it a lot. Highly encourage it. It's only going to be 5 issues long. Anyone who likes Han Solo, it feels like you're reading Harrison Ford come off the page. And then Star Wars #20. So at the end of each arc that they do, they'll do 4 issues in the comics, and then the 5th or 6th issue is a story about Obi-Wan Kenobi from his time on Tatooine. It's from his journal. Luke found the journal in issue 4 or 5 of the main Star Wars comics. So they've had this going for a while. And in this one, he's being attacked by a bounty hunter who shows up in the main series that was sent by Jabba the Hutt to basically kidnap a young Luke Skywalker. Luke and Owen got into some trouble with Jabba's thugs. Obi-Wan beat him up. Owen ordered him to stay away from Luke and stuff. We've seen Luke's prowess as a pilot. And this just kind of elaborates on all this. We see Obi-Wan just kick some serious ass with a lightsaber, save Owen Lars again.
Okay.
Yeah, we see some flying with Luke. The art, again, is just absolutely beautiful in there. If you see the starships.
Yeah. That's nice.
It's very pretty. Luke looks almost like a young Anakin Skywalker here, except he's not going yippee.
Oh God.
So, really good pick. Of course, I like when we deviate to that. I like that better than the main. I'm not a big fan of the main run anymore, but I do pick up the Obi-Wan issues. I have to. I'm obligated to. They're just awesome, and I hope for Ewan McGregor to come back. Last one, X-Men #1.
X-Men #1.
So we said a few minutes ago that previews lied to us. Marvel said this was not going to be in any way related to Civil War II, despite having a Civil War II title plastered across it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, oh, it's going to be obviously the Inhumans fighting the X-Men. And then it started becoming more apparent in recent weeks that's not going to be the case initially. It's really going to be the X-Men that we know, led by Storm, trying to stop the uncanny X-Men, who are led by Magneto, from going to war with the Inhumans. Mm-hmm. I was surprised at how much I like this a lot, considering I don't like any of the current X-Men comics out there. Not a fan of Uncanny, not a fan of Extraordinary in art or in storytelling. Old Man Logan fell apart after a few issues for me once the novelty wore off.
The only one that I liked was Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine has been hit and miss. It's never been enough for me to recommend it to people. This is really interesting. It pretty much all takes place in a penthouse.
I mean, I think the thing that I was drawn so much to in this book was Magneto, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up when we saw the solicitation last month, and it was basically, one mutant refuses to accept mutant kind's fate. Well, come on, we know it's Magneto.
Yep.
It's Chursek, not Charles. And so I was really excited to see
Charles. He did.
He did.
He did.
Scott saw all of that, and I'm sure we're gonna find out more about that this fall.
Oh yeah.
I thought this would be the book we would see Scott come back in. Would be over the course of, and he very well could by the end of this.
By the end of it, maybe, but
by the end of it. And so, of course, the Uncanny X-Men go and follow Magneto. And I don't want to spoil the twist at the end for anybody who hasn't read it. Even if you have read it, let's talk about it. It was really cool to see that. Even if it felt a little touch out of character for that person, but I saw the reasons why they did that. Mm-hmm. So, really excited. It was good enough to convince me that I need to read all 4 issues of this as they come out. This is like Ray last week was recommending Gods of War. This is my recommendation from Civil War 2. This is the one you need to be reading. It is very different from Civil War, but there's a page or two where it's like the 5th retelling we've gotten of Free Comic Book Day. We don't need any more of that. I don't really care, and Magneto doesn't care either. That's probably the funniest part. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to war with these Inhumans.
They did try to start like a situation breakdown, and he was pretty much like, whatever, I don't care. Just like, it was. You'll have to read it, but it was a really cool. It was Magneto to a T.
Yeah, big fan. Ray, your Marvel picks for the week.
So my Marvel picks for the week. This one was a little tough for me. Also because I guess the honorable mention I'll give to Amazing Spider-Man, but these 3 books definitely trump that. And we don't endorse him here, so I just said the word. Don't worry about it. Anyway, Totally Awesome Hulk number 7. International Iron Man number 4, and then She's Back, Black Widow number 4.
Black Widow.
So I guess I'll start with Totally Awesome Hulk. So Totally Awesome Hulk, it kind of does So a few Marvel books this week decided to do a bunch of retelling of stuff that we already knew.
Ultimates number 8.
Ultimates number 8, which is why it's not on my list, by the way.
This is the first time it has never been on our list.
This is the first time that it slipped. It didn't do anything new. But yeah, so it kind of told about how Amadeus became the Hulk, blah, blah, blah. But then Bruce Banner shows up. And he's so out of his element because his entire life, his entire adult life, he's been having to keep himself on like the edge of a needle, in terms of his emotions and keeping himself in check. And there's so many times where he's like, this is it. This is when it's going to happen. This is when I'm going to Hulk out. And nothing happens. So at this point, Banner's starting to crack because he's like, that's who I was. That was me. He doesn't know anything else. But I guess it's a really good Banner story because it's like, it's crazy. Banner's like, oh my God, I can live my life. But then he doesn't know what life is without the Hulk,
He feels incomplete.
Right. Well, now, I wouldn't say that. He doesn't feel incomplete.
Really?
He just doesn't know how to carry himself. There's at one point he goes to Vegas, and everybody knows Bruce Banner at this point. So everybody flips out and leaves because Hulk has tore up Vegas a few times.
Like very first appearance of Wolverine.
Yes. So he's there, and everybody leaves, and of course, his not so favorite person shows up. Tony Stark shows up, and he's like, Bruce, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean what I've been doing? He's like, Tony's like, but I have, he was the Hulk. They've had things following him like his entire life. Like they know where he is, they know what he's been doing. He's like, you've been living like, he's like, you've been trying to kill yourself. You know, like, he's like, but at that point, Banner's like, not on purpose. He's just like, I'm living and I don't really know what to do, you know? But then Banner starts to get mad because he remembers what they did to him. You know, he's like, you shot me into space. It just, I did what I did because of what you guys did to me, essentially. You know, when he was World Crusher Hulk, you know, he's like, I only did that because of what you did. He's like, he's getting so mad at that point. He's like, the anger is really, really getting to him. He's like, I'm always gonna be, and then he, when his anger for him hits that fever point where he normally becomes the Hulk, nothing happens, and he's like, he starts to cry and starts to laugh, and he's like, I'm always gonna be Bruce Banner, and I used to be the Incredible Hulk, and it ends.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like an issue that I want to pick up as someone who doesn't read Hulk.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. It's a really good Banner story, and it's just, to me, it was weird because it sort of felt like the closing of Bruce Banner that we know right now. At least he's come to terms that he's not the Hulk anymore. So I don't know. It was interesting. Amadeus is doing a pretty decent job of being the Hulk, but from what we've seen in the previews going forward, that's going to change. That's going to change real fast. Because Banner was still very, very confused and very concerned for Amadeus, but Amadeus is very cocky and overconfident. So we'll see what happens. But good book. Definitely suggest that everybody check it out if you want a Banner, like a small Banner story. It's good because it's like it's 80% Banner, and then the rest is kind of Amadeus and other stuff mixed in. So mostly Banner. Next book quickly became one of my favorites because it's no secret here that I'm an Iron Man fan, and International Iron Man #4 is this International Iron Man book in general is one of my favorite Iron Man stories of all time. Already, I can say that this is such a good Tony Stark book.
So is it up there with Matt Fraction?
I'm sure when it ends, I might feel that way.
Okay.
But right now, it's such a good Tony Stark story. And
so of the two Iron Man books, this is better.
Ooh, that's hard. Because one is very much an Iron Man book. One is very much a Tony Stark book. This one is more so Tony Stark than Iron Man. And Bendis is doing a hell of a job. So the premise of this book is, in Original Sin, Tony Stark found out that his parents weren't his parents and that he was adopted. This book tackles that head first. He's trying to figure out who his parents are. And it goes back into it starts all like back in like weird, like college age Tony, when his dad was still alive. And him and his, I guess I would say like his first almost serious-ish girlfriend, Cassandra Gillespie. Her family was coincidentally, her family was also in arms and weapons. And doesn't turn out so well. But Cassandra shows up again in the future when he goes looking, trying to figure out answers about who his parents were. And they have a kind of a heart-to-heart and getting to know each other again. And they have the conversations that they have are some of the best exchanges Tony Stark has had with just a single other character in a while. Because right now we have really angry, really sultry Tony because of what happened with Rhodey. But this Tony is more, he's calm and he's thinking before he does things.
Which is interesting because the same writer is writing all of these stories.
Right. But this Tony is very different. He's very much a place where he's trying to gain information that he can't get. And so it puts him at a spot where Tony Stark has never been before. He can't find the information about his parents. I don't ever really want to spoil too much about this because it's good. So you remember how when Arrow was good and the best parts of Arrow were the island, and they would tell you the story of the island? That's pretty much International Iron Man. It's talking about his past, and it's some of the best flashbacks I've read in a long time. It's really good.
Good stuff.
Yeah. And so my last one, which is actually my favorite book of the week of all the books that I've read so far, is Black Widow. This book, this book, this is Chris Samney, Mark Wade, Chris and Mark are co-writing, and Chris also did the art for this book. This book, I remember when this was the book that I picked up solely for the art in the beginning, and I told you guys that this book is beautiful. It's one of the prettiest books that I'm reading, and that's still true. But now this is a definitive Black Widow like epic.
And that's saying something, considering her run leading up to Secret Wars was really good too.
Yeah, like just it's so good. And I told Josh, this is I put it out there on Twitter earlier. I was like, if you even ideally want a Black Widow movie, period, you need to be reading this book, because this is a Black Widow movie in pages, and it's beautiful. I love it. Mm-hmm. So pretty much what's happening is Black Widow's being blackmailed by somebody known as, I think his name is the Weeping Lion, and a bunch of information about assassins all over the world has been leaked, and she's been tasked with going to find out who did it and where to get it. You know, when Widow goes and digs up her secrets, it's bad. And so she ends up finding it, and it's not what we were expecting, but I'm sure at some point it's what she was expecting. There's a lot of characters from her past that are somehow still alive, which made no sense to me, but I'm sure they will let us know how that happened.
It's a comic book.
Yes. But it was funny because the person who, like, you expected to be old, they are old. I was like, well, how are you alive? I don't understand. But the
it's a miracle.
Is gorgeous. I told Josh, this is Black Widow meets Jason Bourne.
Yeah, that's all I need right
there. And so definitely check out this book. It's only gonna get better. So I like it. It's beautiful. Like I said, my favorite book of the week so far. It's great.
Hopefully they'll do a Timely Comics compilation of the first 3 issues.
Oh, I hope so.
Because they seem to be doing it with a lot of the series right now. So, all right, great. Indies. Do you have any notable indies this week?
So, of course, Power Rangers. I've been reading this since it came out. I was one of the ones who was like, everybody needs to read this book. Power Rangers is amazing. And it still is. The art is great. It's a different take on the Power Rangers that you couldn't get in the show, because the show was very much, blood explosions, This is like the relationships actually between the characters. Like, you get all the Megazordy goodness, which is awesome.
I mean, from the parts that I've read and seen of this book, in terms of story and art, this is what I want the movie to be like when it comes out.
I really hope so.
That's what I want, especially with Bryan Cranston as Zordon.
Yes, I really hope so, because it's really good. Like, I'm having a ton of fun with this. I know, if you like Power Rangers at all, if you have kids that you think would like Power Rangers, definitely buy them this comic book. It's good. It's very good. It's a lot of fun. It's a very easy read. Easy-ish for a younger comic book reader. So definitely check it out. If you enjoy Power Rangers, you would enjoy this too. So, what about you, Josh?
My indie pick of the week is from Kurt Sutter, Lucas Stand. It's really interesting. So it's about this ex-Army Ranger who is an alcoholic and is, just really pissed off at his life. And about a third of the way through the issue tries to kill himself, puts a gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. But some supernatural force stops him from doing that. And tries to recruit him, since he's a great warrior, he's a killer, this and that, to fight essentially this eternal war against demons. But he has to accept the offer, or he's going to die, because a demon literally starts attacking him right then. And he's like, no, like, nope, not gonna happen. The demon kills his dog. He pulls his gun out, starts shooting the demon, and then like chases the demon up to the roof and tackles him off and yells, what about that deal now? And when he basically says that, he gets transported to 1940s Nazi Germany, and is there was somebody else who has made one of these Faustian style deals. It's a very interesting book. I didn't really get the hook sunk in until about the last third. The book makes no sense right now. It's only going to be 6 issues long. It already says that on the cover, issue 1 of 6.
Okay.
I'm excited to see where this goes. This is from Boom. So from the same ones who do Power Rangers, I believe.
Yes. Boom is also, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really, really intrigued to see where this one goes. I picked it up on a whim, just off a recommendation of my comic guy over at Lone Star Comics here in Arlington. And, man, it was an awesome book. I'm really happy. It's probably my most random indie pickup I've ever had that I've enjoyed this much. The art is very well done. It's even if it's really simplistic, the story is it's great. Really recommend it. It is $4. It is a very mature comic, though. There's a lot of swearing. It's very bloody. It's rated M, so it definitely earned its rating. Good comic. I want to see where it goes. I hope the rest of the series lives up to this first issue, which it was pretty packed for a first issue. Which is how many pages were in it, how much the pages are filled with dialogue. I felt like I really got my money's worth out of that issue.
Okay. I see. It sounds like fun. I might have to check that out.
It was different from what I was expecting.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Okay. We'll see. But yeah, I guess I picked up 2 indie books. The other one was Empress, number 1.
Mark Millar.
Yeah, Mark Millar. The guys in my shop were like, I think the girls in my shop were like, Ray, you like Star Wars? I was like, yeah, I love Star Wars. They're like, read this. I was like, okay, I'll do it. He's like, same guy that's been writing Star Wars. And you could definitely tell. Definitely. This is very much a space odyssey. Definitely. It kind of grabbed me right away because there was a guy riding a T-Rex, like literally with a giant saddle on his back. So
I'm gonna need to read this. I had it recommended to me. I just didn't pick it up.
It's a lot of fun.
I definitely need to.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun space opera. Like it's going to be cool. So if you're looking for something that's not Star Wars, but it's in space, and it's not Marvel, and it's not DC, and it's got pretty art, definitely check this out. Yeah.
All right.
So now with the bulk of it out of the way, we have a few little kind of smaller topics to kind of talk about for a second. First one I want to bring up is Marvel Now. So Josh, we both follow Marvel on Twitter, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They've been dropping these weird Marvel Now branded images every other day or every few days.
I do not like them.
I don't like them either. And it's because they're coming with just no explanation. I mean, you have 2 characters, like one, in the regular way, and then one flipped upside down. And there's this weird shattered imagery with like shockwaves throughout. Mm-hmm. And one of the ones we saw was Miss America and then Victor Von Doom with the Iron Man helmet in his hand. And I don't get it. And I'm sure we're not supposed to get it yet.
Right. I didn't understand that. One of the other ones we saw was, I forget who was the top image, but the bottom image was the War Machine armor with basically the new War Machine that's being trained in the Iron Man comics.
Riri. Yeah,
Riri. She was in one of them. One of them was Steve Rogers with the new hero that was just revealed this week, Nomad, on the bottom. I don't understand what it. God knows who was on the flip side of Panther.
It was the one where I have no idea. I will fully admit I have no idea who the hell that was.
Ray sent that to me. He's like, "What is happening? What's going on?
What is happening? Like, I don't like that. It's like they have too much going on. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why?
They do. The problem with Marvel is they don't. as much as we like them, they don't let their events settle. I mean, you look at the lead up to Secret Wars, all right? We started with Marvel Now. So essentially, the road to Secret Wars started with Avengers versus X-Men. We went from that to not even a year later, we had Infinity. And then we had Original Sin. We had Axis. Then we had Black Vortex in between those and Civil War. I understand doing an event, for like 2 or 3 franchises, okay. But when it affects the universe as a whole, like Original Sin literally hadn't even ended when Axis started. This is getting absurd.
We did everything else.
We are just now getting settled into all new, all different, which has been handled marvelously, pun intended. Up until this point. And we scratched our heads with Civil War II, like, man, you just finished the biggest event you've ever done, ever. And now you're going to throw us into another one before we've even some of these ones like International Iron Man, issue number 4 is a Civil War II issue. Some of these series have barely gotten off the ground. Like, you're hindering good storytelling with some of these. It's unnecessary. The X-Men are trying to catch up. They're still finishing up the Apocalypse Wars. That's not going to be finished until August, I think. Yeah. So those aren't Civil War II issues. Yet here we've got all the X-Men involved in their own title for Civil War. It just is an excuse not to bring all those other titles in, I think, outside of Wolverine. And it makes no sense what Marvel is doing. And then they're going back to Marvel Now. Really, we're going back to a brand that you used for like 3 years.
It's just like, can you just give it a rest with the names? Because like just put out your Marvel comic books, please. Like, that's what we want.
Right. Like, we don't need it being called Marvel Now. You don't need to rebrand not even a full year after you've rebranded. It's been 9 months since All New, All Different launched, and we're already getting announced another rebrand.
Yeah, I'm like, come on now, please. Like, just leave it alone. I mean, like, you're just throwing stuff at the wall now, hoping it sticks. And I'm like, all right.
Right.
I'm going to warn you right now that DC is going to sneak up on you, and you're not going to like it. I
mean, for the last 4 or 5 years, Marvel's been the top dog, and that's not saying a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
DC really hasn't.
It hasn't been all that great.
So outside of Scott Snyder and Jeff Johns, DC really didn't have a way to compete. And now, though, they've gotten their stuff together. They've taken writers away from Marvel, signed them to exclusive retainers. Dan Abnett, Chris Humphries are now exclusive with DC, and they're writing some of the bigger titles over there. Christopher Priest is coming back to do Deathstroke.
Yep.
Longtime writer of Black Panther right there. So Marvel is making a lot of really mind-boggling decisions. Like, they're going away from the original philosophy of Marvel Now, which was to put the characters that are in the movies front and center. And they're going away from that, which DC is doing this with Rebirth in a really smart way right now. And I just don't get it.
I don't understand. I'm sure, hopefully, it'll be something that's cool. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was cool. It's just, give me time to enjoy Civil War II. And then you could.
This just comes back to our whole thing. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, it's literally just the marketing department. They're like, hey, got to start dropping those hints so that when it comes out, it's ready to go. And I'm like, just let it breathe.
I understand that. Like, I'd be okay, I think, if we were getting these images and they weren't branded Marvel Now.
Right.
This goes back to the whole discussion we had about Civil War II, where, I mean, this still, we're 2 issues in. We're about to get issue number 3, and I can't call this Civil War. It doesn't feel like a Civil War. It feels like the world against Tony Stark is what it feels like.
Yep, again, by the way, again.
Yeah, this marks like, what, 4 or 5 times?
Old.
It's getting old. It's lazy storytelling. I mean, just to cap it all off, as much as we love them, they put Bendis on it. Yep. It's like the king of remedial storytelling right there.
He's doing a great job with this character, but it's not
his own titles can't even stay in continuity. It's a problem. He's writing like 7 books over there at Marvel. He's writing too much right now. He's trying to juggle all this. And then, we just rehashed Civil War II. Let's go rehash Marvel Now again. No, don't call it that. Just do an event and don't call it Marvel Now. If you would have just released that image, like say it would have been Tony Stark and then on the bottom, Victor Von Doom holding the helmet, I would have freaked out. I would have like fangirl squealed. I actually looked really closely at that image because at very first glance, I thought that was Norman Osborn, and if it was, I was gonna lose my shit because I want Norman back in a way.
They can't bring that many people back.
No. But that that was the only image that intrigued me. All the others, Riri, we saw coming. We've been saying that for a little while now. The others, though, it's like get to care about these characters first. They just announced a new hero this week, Nomad or whatever his name is. He sounds like he has a really intriguing story. He doesn't want to be a hero. He doesn't want to be a villain. He just wants to play around with his powers.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome.
That sounds awesome. The first
gets swept away.
Right. The first issue is going to be free, coming out, on digital platforms and at Barnes & Noble. And then he's an Inhuman,
Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, well, that's a baffling issue. That's a baffling thing, first off.
I mean,
but
it's the one real place
books. Why does he need to be an Inhuman? Why?
Well, I mean, it's because that's literally the easiest way to get a new character in without much of an origin story. There's not a spider that bit him. There's not like a vat of acid that he fell into. He's not from an alien planet. Like this, they have this Terrigenian mist. So anybody on Earth can technically, well, I shouldn't say anybody. There's a select group of people on Earth that could be Inhuman because of the way they did the Terrigenian mist that is now just like literally a rolling cloud front that could be predicted on the weather now, which is really weird. It just kind of shows up in places now. So I don't know.
I get that. Like I want to explore this character. I'm interested to see where he goes. But if that comic doesn't take off in the first 2 or 3 issues, they're just going to blend him into Inhumans, if not get rid of him completely. Mm-hmm. He seems he's going to be a pretty big focus of this fall. So I'm interested to see where they go. I think Miss America getting her own image was probably the most shocking to me.
And I've been saying this since they brought her into the Ultimates. She needs her own book.
Well, that now marks 3 of the 5 Ultimates have specific images of these. Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and now Miss America. If Blue Marvel gets another one, then I have a very strong feeling where this is going.
Me too.
I really think, we've been saying for a while now, I think Civil War II will be resolved by Reed Richards coming back and taking Ulysses with him. Basically saying, y'all don't deserve this power.
Or he's going to die.
You don't deserve this.
He's going to die.
I'd be okay with either one. At some point, though, we have to address in the larger universe what happened post-Secret Wars. If it doesn't happen with this, it's happening in the fall, especially given the big emphasis on the Ultimates right now in these images.
Right.
There's a very strong chance that could happen. Ultimates is the book right now, Cosmic side. Marvel in general, out of 8 issues, we've had 1 stumble, and that's the most recent one.
The next issue will actually be where shit goes down. So, yeah.
Yeah. There were, as remedial as this one was, there were a lot of battle lines drawn. Mm-hmm. A lot of kind of backdoor alliances being formed, and you can see the fragmentation in this.
You confirmed for me what's going to happen with Ulysses. The universe itself is going to claim Ulysses. Mm-hmm. He's not something that he's got almost a cosmic power, pretty much is what it is.
We've already seen his powers become evolving.
Right.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think Reed, Sue, and Molecule Man come back in. It's either at the end of this event or in Marvel Now. I think them coming back here is what could kick off the Marvel Now event.
Watcher.
Ooh.
Yep.
I don't know if I like that, but ooh.
Yep.
So I don't like Ulysses at all. I think
I don't like him either, but he's the new Watcher. He's one of the Watchers. Well, because the Watchers were people, but he'll take the place of that, I'm sure. Yep.
We've been without a Watcher for about 2-3 years now.
Yeah. So he's going to take that place, I think. I don't know. We'll see. Right. Unless there was like another Watcher that came in. I don't know. But that seems to me like a pretty plausible idea. So yeah, beyond that, so Marvel Now, interesting. I just wish that they had given it some time, like give Civil War some time to actually breathe. Like, I understand you guys are making a lot of money, but you're making a lot of money. Don't rush it. Please don't.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, definitely quality, especially with comic books, because you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot one way or another. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I don't think I remember the second part that I want to talk about now.
Did you want to talk about the Justice League?
Oh, yeah.
Did we want to touch on that or not?
Well, it depends. Did you read 52?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
read 51 and 52.
let's talk about it, because I read 51. I have not read 52 yet, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So Josh, I don't know if you noted, or he might have noted it before we started the show. Justice League did not end with 50. Kept going 51 and 52. I don't know if 52 was the last one.
52 is the last one. It's due to DC wanting to end all the main titles with 52 issues.
Hilarious. Yes.
Considering 50 wrapped it up so beautifully.
Yes, I was like, why didn't you just stop there? It didn't need to go anywhere else. But 51 was very much to me, why are you doing this? Why is this book still going?
Why is it called Justice League?
Exactly. Why is it called Justice? You don't need a Justice League title until you start the Rebirth version of Justice League.
Right.
It's like, why is this still going? I honestly feel like that there's no story for them to fill out there. It
was filler. It was a cheap ploy to get you to spend $4.
Seriously, I was like, this is like you were just literally taking money from me at this point with these two like Justice League books. I was not happy about that. Johns wrote a beautiful end to the Justice League story. And
I think if anything, Rebirth #1 should have been 51 and 52 combined, and just said that that you need to read Justice League 51 and 52. That's going to kick off Rebirth. I
wish that it had been that way, but no, I feel like they ruined it. I was like, I wish I hadn't bought either one of those books. Not necessary at all. So if you haven't bought Justice League 51 and 52, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't buy them. Don't waste your money on those books. They're not worth it. Like, actually buy the Rebirth books that are coming out, because those are good. These books are not good.
So 51 serves as like a backdoor pilot. We do that with TV series sometimes. There'll be an episode that will just be completely out of the blue, and it'll be really weird. Won't really fit in with the chronology. That's what 51 and 52 are. 51 is a backdoor pilot into Titans and Teen Titans, essentially. And then 52 is a backdoor pilot into Action Comics. It's literally an entire issue about Lex Luthor. Which would have been cool if I didn't already know most of this or inferred it from Action Comics, which came out a month ahead of this.
Goodness gracious.
And it's important to note, Jeff Johns did not write 51 or 52.
Nope, he did not.
Abnett wrote 51, and then Dan Jurgens wrote 52. Which was really weird. It made no sense why I didn't like at least 52. It felt really unnecessary. It could have very easily been Action Comics. The first Action Comics of Rebirth is what that could have been and should have been. Because for anybody who's coming into it, and if you just jump in Action Comics, you're like, well, when the hell did Lex Luthor get all this? Like, this kind of explains what Lex was doing between the end of Darkseid War and the beginning of his run in Action Comics. This kind of explains it. Some semi-interesting things go down, I guess. He buys the Daily Planet and such, but purely to get Superman's cape because he's petty. But other than that, it's like, okay, we already knew this from Action Comics. Why are you having to spend another $4?
Right. I'm not happy with them about that. Not at all.
No. And it's literally only because they wanted to hit 52 issues. That's the only reason why we got these two.
You're right. I still think it's
I would have rather one of the Darkseid War specials been a main issue.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Because that was essential reading. No. Shame on you, DC.
Yep. Why do you do this? It was such a good run. I loved Justice League. Loved every bit of that up until this. So, I'm not going to rag on that any longer.
Nope.
I guess we'll wrap it up and send it home. So, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Neek the Pull List Podcast. The gargantuan episode where we talk about all the really big books that we bought. So next episode, expect us to be talking about Black Panther a lot, because that book, Black Panther #3, is finally coming out. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me, Ray, where's Black Panther #3? Oh my God, it feels like it's been forever. That's because it had been forever. It got delayed, pushed back, all that fun stuff. So next week we got Panther, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man. So there's some good books coming out next week too. Definitely look forward to that. I'll post a link with all the preview, well, not the previews, but just kind of a pull list show what's coming out next week. So, all right, Josh, it's time to go finish the
Time
books
to say
that we
goodbye.
didn't finish the books that we need to go finish.
Out of our gargantuan halls.
Yes. Because we got a lot of books that we didn't read that we wanted to talk to you about, but it would take up way too much time. So we're going to go read those books now. Once again, thank you for
Including our
listening.
girl Kamala.
Oh my God, Kamala Khan. I love her so much. I'm going to finish those books. Remember, folks, this is a part of Neek the podcast, the beautiful show where not just the two of us, but there are two other beautiful men, Nick and Kiku, that join us and we talk about everything that's happening. But this is just a specialized show about comic books, but I'm sure you knew that. And if you didn't know that, now you know. So thanks for listening to this episode. I will talk with you next time. And don't forget, keep those pull lists full. All right, tell the folks bye, Josh.
Bye, folks.